is a PSA, and I'm gonna say this part. I'm gonna do this video with the most respect that I can muster, because I feel like respect given is respect due, but respect given is also respect earned. Okay, so this is a departure from what I typically do, mostly because this is not just about astrology for me. It's about just overall well-being, spirituality, learning something new. But astrology is at its core because it actually helped me through a lot of tough moments and understanding the reality that we live in. It might be something else for you. For me, it was astrology, okay? It's not a religion or belief structure in that sense of things. It doesn't have a dogmatic atmosphere, but it kind of does, being that Saturn and Jupiter at the center, and they hold the most power and energy in the universe, as it pretend in our universe, because, or in our galaxy. Let's just call it that, because the universe is vast. I'm getting too technical. I'm gonna bore you. Let me stop, because that's not what this is about. This is a conversation about something larger than that, and that is dogmatic belief structures and all the general senses of things, and how that's going to look as it changes. The thing is, more and more people are developing a sense of self that is recognizable as being a part of the whole, and that's what they call the collective. And then they recognize that we're all energetically impacting each other, and that's called a semblance of the understanding of collective consciousness. Okay? It's kind of like understanding the hive mind. That if one person does something, this is why the growth of influencers happens so quickly. There are side effects to every single aspect of growth and development. So when the epiphyseal plates start to grow, that's when you have what's called growing pains. You start feeling achy and things like that, especially when you're growing a lot over a short period of time. That's why the babies complain about the elbows and the knees, you know? And that stops happening later on in the teen years for a lot of folk. So they don't feel that pain no more. But they get to grow. Unfortunately, that comes with pain. And that's what is the side effects of a lot of this growth. People influencing folks to eat Tide Pods because they're not realizing when they are they can influence each other, they can be influenced, and they're realizing for the first time in recorded human history that they are a part of a collective. Now, what that looks like sometimes is sloppy and a mess. And it's okay sometimes to be a mess. I was just telling one of my babies today. And when I say my babies, I can mean my children, one of my clients, one of my students, or just somebody I know. But I was just telling one of my babies today that sometimes progress looks messy. And right now it's a goddamn mess. And I shouldn't say that. It's a mess. It's just a mess. Because no, we probably shouldn't be influencing one another to eat Tide Pods or lick toilets or anything like this. Or influencing one another to bully others online, or influencing one another to hold our children up on camera so everybody can see them, and just force that image out there so they can get more likes. That's one of those things that just like one of my pet peeves right now. That's a personal thing that I'm just still trying to mentally adjust to as a side effect. The conditioning to get the clicks and the likes, being conditioned to know that that means power and that means strength. But there's a conditioned response. And I don't think there's a lot of people or enough people understanding that they've been trained to do this. The people who are the influencers and the influencees. Okay? This is just a new conditioned response and training. Now, you can decondition yourself from this by realizing that what you have to say is valid regardless of these things. But also, when you have a lot of this, you're not responsible for anybody other than yourself, although it would be nice if you be a bit more responsible. And sometimes that responsibility means that taking money to do what you do, be clear about that's what you're doing. Because we're not politicians, are we? Now, I digressed. I wasn't supposed to, but this is not about influencers or influencing. This is more about belief structures and how they're going to change and why they're changing. And that is because we're all connected and we're starting to realize what that is and what that looks like. Now, there's a lot of religious folks. And when I say religious folks, I mean dogmatic Abrahamic religions that see the different layers of spirituality that is opening up, especially to our young folk, is something that is corruptive and corrosive. But we need to be careful when we start making those type of judgments. Possibly, at least that's in my assessment. Because before this moment, Abrahamic religions gave rise to major abuses and injustices around the world. Okay? And it was non-apologetic for the longest time. Because what is lost upon me as an Aquarius, and it's been lost upon me since I was a child, is why is it was okay for Jim Crow, for slavery, for the Holocaust, for the savagery of Africa, and the continued bombing of innocents in other countries that have black and brown people, the ignoring of Haiti on several occasions, all these atrocities that we've had mega churches and churches in general around for this whole time. Why was the church not a beacon of light in those situations? A lot of the people who were preaching in a lot of these pulpits during the Jim Crow era were people who were also standing on the picket lines when Ruby Bridges was trying to go to school. When are we going to reconcile these type of things? And this is not even about racism, because guess what, black churches? I've personally been witness to a lot of atrocities that could be considered atrocities, at least to me, in the black church. Now you looking at somebody who been like this since I was a child. I don't know why. The only thing I can understand is that I was made for a specific purpose. That's the only thing I understand at this particular time. But when I was little, I went to every type of church I could possibly go to try to understand why everybody believes the way they believe. Because I watched grown folks go into the church house and then walk out with somebody other than their spouse, knowing for what is what they were doing. But I also knew that there were pedophiles in a lot of the church houses, and people just covered it up. But I also knew that there were good people in there too. But I also heard those same good people who would do good things one moment and the next month be talking crap about the other person. Now, we all been talking about this. This has been, the veil has been lifted on a lot of this stuff, especially in the last 2 years or so. But the thing is, what I understood from when I was really young, we should stand up for something. We should stand against some of this stuff and then make it real. If we're going to have dogmatic religions, especially the Abrahamic ones, shouldn't it be real? You know what? Our thoughts do create our reality. So the human concept of God comes exactly from my thought processes. Now, prove me wrong, anybody. Anybody with a Bible or book, prove me wrong. Because you can't. But I also can speak on the concept and the creation of God in some kind of way that can make sense and does not go against your belief structures, no matter who you are listening. Okay? Even the atheists understand the idea of a collective consciousness. But I digressed again. Sorry about that, y'all. The point I'm making here, right now, is we are signaling a change. And when I say we, I mean the collective of we, humankind. No, everybody's not going to have the same belief structures. We're not going to build another metaphorical Tower of Babel where we all believe the same thing at the same time. Because let me tell you something. Human beings will get bored with that. Cultural differences is part of what makes us spicy. Because if we don't have cultural differences in different aspects of the world, then we're just bland. You ever eat somebody's bland food? You ever go to the hospital and have to be put on a bland diet? I like soul in my food. But that's just me personally. So there will always be different sects and different types. What we're coming to the conclusion of is not the end of belief structures, or the end of churches, and the end of dogmatic concepts, thoughts, and belief structures. We're bringing, hopefully, to an end the concept that one is better than the other, or the concept that one is evil and one is good, or the concept that a person standing in the pulpit has any business damning anybody to hell based on what's written down in words from man. I said what I said. I'm not going to argue with you about it, but if you ever want to debate me on it, I like my odds. As it pertains to the different belief structures that come from books, what would happen? You think God will come down here and punish you if we, for some reason, decided that we should take this as a guide in ways that can serve us well as a populace, that serve us all, not just some, but serve us all that believes in that structure and dynamic. And those who don't believe in your specific type of structure and dynamic, that's okay. I'm still going to treat them as if they're my brother and sister within this dynamic, and I'm not going to force them to believe. Well, if you don't believe, some people believe, if you don't believe that there is a deity that is above all things, and if you don't go and worship that deity, then you're going to go to a place called hell. Now, I hate to burst your bubble. Hell might not be a place that you can go to after that. Maybe it is. Some people say they had NDEs, and that means near-death experiences in which they've experienced hell for a short period of time. Who knows what they experienced? I don't know. I wasn't there. But what I can tell you is this. This part is not for the sensitive. So if you're sensitive to hearing something that may contain violence, or in any type of way violence can be explained in the human experience, then I need you to go ahead and turn away for about 5 minutes, okay? We understand, just living the human experience, violence can happen to children, violence can happen to the vulnerable, violence can happen to the elderly. We understand that children could be violated in every way possible to be violated. There are some countries that have a whole market on it, this being one of them. We understand that people can starve to death right now, while a lot of folks are sliding down water slides. These things are happening. Literally, slavery never ended. This is a fact. Slavery never fully ended. Oh yeah, we can say it on paper that it was, abolished. But when you look at how people are treated, comparatively speaking, the only thing that changed was the title. Because people are still not getting paid enough to live a decent and happy existence. They're constantly being tortured emotionally, physically, financially. And there's no difference than the 400 years of just having African diasporan originated people being enslaved to enslaving anybody who can get caught in a slave net plus them. That's what's been going on now. So if you understand, I'm not saying this is hell, I'm just saying that how is something going to be worse than this? It's like, it can be heaven too. Because I've seen the eyes of many babies being born. I've hugged loved ones I've loved, I've been in love. I've had the time of my life in different aspects, including running through Europe and getting lost. There are wonders that I could tell stories about for days that I've experienced, and it's just absolutely breathtaking and beautiful. One of which is just like every now and again, when I, for shits and giggles, I ride on the roof of a car, going as top speed as I can without falling off in the middle of the night, just because I'm celebrating life. So by that point, I'm saying that you're telling me, religious folks, or folks who believe that when you die, if you're not a good person or you don't believe or be a part of this particular body, that you're going to some hell, so a person is going to some hell. What could be worse than this? In the ways that it can be awful. And also, to further that point, how are you making it any better by damning people to it? By telling them they're not good enough, knowing full well you be lying all day too. And when I say that, I don't mean all pastors and priests, prophets or prophetess are liars, but some of them are. My understanding of the Bible, generally speaking, that's the one we know the most about, was that the church was never the building. But yet, if somebody don't show up on Sundays, every Sunday and every time the door is open, then something's wrong. Now, the church was a safe haven because of all the beatings and lynchings and all these things, and they had to have meetings to keep each other together. But now the church is being used as a weapon against especially the Black community. And you don't think, if you don't think that, that's fine. You don't have to think that. But that doesn't mean you don't experience it too, even sitting in that church. How many times have you felt judged, been left behind, and you felt like you wasn't good enough just walking in there? And if you feel that way, then we need to probably change that. And how we govern ourselves when it comes to the church. And when I say that, let me tell you a little story. And I've probably told this story before, but I'll tell it again. Just for clarification's sake. There's been a multitude of times that I witnessed from knee-high to flip until adulthood, churches just destroying the self-esteem of the people that are attendees or want to be attendees. And one of those times was teenage boys from my school who could have been on the street corner, who could have been doing all kinds of foolery, chose to go to church and wanted to serve. And they told them because they weren't baptized, they weren't allowed to serve. And I don't even know where that's written in the book, but they chose to say that to those young men and turned them away. Those boys never returned to that church. And then told them further, if they wanted to sing, again, they had to be baptized within the church. Like, they make the rules. Now, if that's a God in charge, I don't see how that can actually fall into any kind of structure that makes sense. You mean to tell me these teenage boys could have been doing anything with their weekend? They chose to come in here and serve and want to sing, and you said because they didn't dip their head in your particular water, they ain't good enough? That was enough for me. I'd already decided. And you know what made me stay around church after that? What made me stay around church after that is the guilt. The constant guilt. It ain't just in one religion, it's in all of them. Constant guilt that you ain't good enough or that you're bad or evil if you don't want to come up in here. This is why the children are turning away, because they're seeing through the bull crap that y'all didn't see through. Anybody who's grown and above a certain age and listening to me, if you're wondering why your children ain't got no interest in going to church with you, it's because they can see through all the bull crap. And by bull crap, I mean most of y'all are having affairs. Most of y'all are having babies outside your marriage. Most of y'all are lying. A lot of y'all stealing. And they've been seeing it the whole time. And the people you think you're friends, they listen to their own mamas and daddies talk crap about their friends in the church at the round dinner table. Or to each other on the phone. Y'all didn't walk in like you're talking. Why do you think they want to stay around that? Not even a little bit. Personally, I can tell you about that story. I know of a deacon that was in the church for several generations. Came by me going to my first job, catching the bus, and I was walking to the bus stop. I was about 14, 15 years old. And this man, old enough to be my grandpa at the time. And since I grew up in the church with him, I let him go ahead and pick me up, scoop me up. Boop. When he scooped me up, this man had the filthiest ideas for what he would like to happen with our evening at that particular point, and I won't go into detail. But I always kept a knife with me for that, just such purposes, so that wasn't going to go down. I got out of there safely, but the fact that that man still probably served to the day of his death, and I'm probably not the only one that happened with. And I'm sure there's stories like that all around the country and the world. And then there's still people who still walk inside the Catholic Church knowing what they did to all those children. And still look at the Pope as their leader. Now that's the part that get me. Like, really? How you look towards a God that they tell you they serve, Who are they serving if that's what they serving? This is not me saying you shouldn't believe in anything. I'm saying you should believe in something that is real. The real version of what they're feeding you. If y'all want it, y'all gonna have to create it yourself. And start again. Because I don't think any belief structure is particularly wrong. I think they all go together like cousins or something at a family reunion. Again, hi. I've been studying religion since I was knee-high to a flea. As a matter of fact, my first protest was not standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I understood what those words mean because while I was studying the different religions, I was also studying spells and why that was a belief structure or why it was evil. I'm just trying to understand what that means. What you speak and what you believe also creates your reality. And I was an allegiant to a country that made me live in poverty and my family live in poverty and so on and so much. You know what happens to minorities in this country, or perceived minorities. I don't like that word neither, but I digress. And then she got mad with me, my teacher. Called my grandmother, who will beat my ass just for blanking wrong. But she knew that I had been going to different churches, and one of them churches at that particular time was the Jehovah's Witness Church. I was studying them. Oh, I've studied it all. I got around to the tarot readers, spirituality, the African diaspora religions probably about 5 years ago. Started doing those. Found out the circle of life, because those were the beginnings anyway. Digressing again. So my grandma said, yeah, she's been going to the Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Home. So I think she's trying to be Jehovah's Witness, and they don't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And at which time I was the only person in class to not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I was in 3rd or 4th grade. I think it was in 4th grade. When I tell you, no, it was a guy. I think it was a guy. I don't know. It must have been a substitute the first time I did it because I remember it being female being PO'd with me. But I know I'm dragging on, but this is a point. There's a point to this. Okay? If y'all can sit for sermons in church, y'all can sit for this. And if you can't sit for this, that's fine. I've already been guaranteed that my voice is in the future, so I'm fine. I'm fine with who looks now or who looks later. Even if it's just a service and a reminder that we don't have to come back to this. Because what this looks like is people going inside of a building thinking that God lives there when God is within us. Even there's not a text around the world, no matter what your religious structure is, that doesn't say that God is within us. If God is within us, then all the things that we are, if you take it real deep, you'll realize all the things that you are is what it is. But we're not taking it that deep today. We're just taking it to the level of understanding that your beliefs does not damn or grace anybody with heaven. Damn anybody to hell or grace anybody with heaven. See, what brought me to this point where I'm just ready to say what I gotta say about this is I had a conversation with my uncle. Again, it's my uncle, who's also an Aquarius, because he's a catalyst for me on this. And we differ and disagree on how beliefs are supposed to be structured in some kind of way, because I don't believe there's a supposed to be. I believe that there is what you believe. Harm or none if you can try to manage it. Now, do I fight? Yeah, I'll fight. But not unless I have to. And that's the core of my belief structure. Just that. Will I hurt? Yeah, I can hurt somebody, but not unless I have to. And do I have to participate in any worship? No, unless I want to and it brings me comfort. I don't believe that anything that is all powerful requires us to give it anything for it to be. Now that's a different point of contention, because he was telling me the other day, from a place of love, he really do think that he's trying to save me in some way. That's why I was like, okay. But he's like, the only purpose for mankind in being is, one of the main purposes for us being is to worship God. I'm like, really? You mean I was only made to be a servant to a deity that's all powerful? That don't even make logical sense. I ain't said it to him out of respect, but I'm just saying it to y'all. It don't make logical sense. So it gotta be some other purpose. Nobody truly knows the purpose of life. I think I have an understanding of it, but I ain't gonna say it here. The purpose of this conversation right here, right now, is we gotta at some point start admitting the truth about all the things that are in imbalance. And right now, there's not a religious structure around the world that doesn't have some semblance of imbalance, but no more so than Christian Abrahamic religions. And it's time that we start reconciling that so that we can actually become together in some kind of way. There's a reason why so many factions of them broke off. You think there's Baptists, Methodists, Lutheran, Seventh-day Adventists. You think all those different parts of the Christian faith are just segmented just cause? Mormons. No, they're segmented because people could not get along and Christians could not get along. They could not agree on things and they wanted to do things their own way. And then somebody rose up and said, hey, we can do things differently. We don't have to listen to them and the way they do things. We can do things our own way and still find comfort in our belief structure. Let's call ourselves something else. And then other people agreed and walked away because they got tired of the bull crap. Or they wanted to do their own bull crap. Whatever the case may be. That's how each one of these factions broke off. It's like people just pretend that that's not a whole ass gang war within the religious sectors going on right in front of our eyes and always have been. With the Catholics being the one who won out, but the only reason why the Catholic Church has the power it has is because of violence. And we can't pretend that's not a thing. You can go to church and bow your head and pray with the priest if you want to, and that's fine if that gives you peace, but somebody not doing that doesn't make them a bad person. Somebody wanting to do that, it don't make them a bad person. However, somebody wanting to do that without reconciling the violence and abuse that got them to the place of peace, that might be a problem. Ignoring these things is not going to happen anymore. Ignoring the pain and the ills, it's not going to happen anymore. This place is, as we discussed earlier, can be shitty all by itself. It don't need no help. The sanctuary is the church. Regardless of your belief structure, the sanctuary should be the church. And the church is the people that run it, not the building. It is a sanctuary away from some of the ills of life or things that are challenges. The fact that it isn't a sanctuary anymore and it stopped being a sanctuary a long time ago and people keep pretending like it is problematic, especially for the youth. Now, one other thing that a lot of folks in the religious structures have a problem with is homosexuality. Now, do I believe that the little boo-boos, the kiddos, need to be a part of that conversation only for educational purposes and only at an appropriate age? But that's just my belief structure, okay? And that's how I governed myself when I was a parent. At an appropriate age as needed and when they had questions. And I just told them the truth. But I also was raised around a multitude of people who I know for a fact were born that way. Because I was raised right next to them and saw them. And I didn't even know what gay was. And I knew something was different about that one. And I understood it and it didn't bother me. Nothing bothered me about it until a grown person told me something was wrong with it. And that's something that goes true for racism and sexism and things of this nature. That stuff, hate is taught. Now, why am I talking about this today? It's because there's going to be a lot of civil unrest coming up. And when I say civil unrest, in every aspect of life, civil unrest. And we've been talking about it for a while. It is incumbent upon the young and the youthful we want to keep a lot of these structures in place in some kind of way. We just build it from a space of love, understanding the fallacy of perfection in our leaders, and also understanding the fallacy in pretend divinity. And when I say pretend divinity, that means that you mean you ain't healed nothing, you haven't built nothing, you haven't structured nothing, and you stand in front of the church and you say, I went to school, so I know this thing. Cool, then you're a professor and you can teach somebody something. But to pretend like because you're in the pulpit that makes you holier than thou and all these performances. One time I had this man used to come into church who would visit churches because he was good orator. He was good at preaching. He treated us like crap. His church was down in Florida. He treated us like crap when we came visit his church. When he came to our church, he wanted a throne on the stage and he wanted somebody to hold his coat and put it on his back like James Brown. And these crazy folks went ahead and did it because he was a popular pastor. That kind of chicanery needs to be cut out. The church is meant to be a place of sanctuary and service. So the person who stands up there, yes, they give them their due respect when they're speaking, but they're of service to the church, not the other way around. That type of stuff. Now, I know I'm talking for a longer time than I usually do lately, but it just felt like some moment chance. Mostly because I promised my uncle I would go and watch him preach, but some of the things he said to me, just talking to me, made me feel like this is one of the reasons why I stopped going. It wasn't because I don't think it's a lovely experience to come together with your fellow man and support them in a loving space, sing together. That's one of the things that was to hit my soul the hardest. Especially when I was hurting, hearing everybody singing together for a common purpose was healing to my soul. So I kind of miss it. But I don't miss the judgmentalness. I don't miss the hypocrites that was all around me. The more I learned about the people around me, the more I realized this is not where I need to be. And I help people in my own way. Come as you are should mean exactly what it is. That means that you can stand underneath the tree and preach whatever you're going to preach. It's like, well, if we're preaching the word, why it got to be the word? Why can't it be a word of comfort, of guidance, of love? Because preaching, this is going to be long. So I hope y'all forgive me for this being long. But preaching from a book, an antiquated book that has been edited over and over again. I know I'm saying the argument that has been said before, but it's time for it to be said anew. Okay? Preaching from a book that is antiquated, that has very little application to modern times, is problematic in a lot of ways. More ways than one, because whenever a young person comes up and asks them, a lot of the people who are experts at looking at that book over and over again, hey, how can I apply this to my life? Or what about the stoning of the women who are adulterers? And we don't look at the Old Testament, it's just telling the story. But you still go to the Old Testament to find allegories. You mean to tell me, in all your years of wisdom, those of you who do this job with gray hairs in your head, in all your years of wisdom, you can't find stories and allegories from yourself and other people that you've experienced that you can't come from the pulpit and preach on without having to use the book all the time. And I'm saying you shouldn't use the book. I'm just saying that the book is not God. The book is inanimate. And it's time for us to start realizing that. The animate thing is inside of you. And it's your soul. You can come from a space of love. No matter what a person looks like, no matter what they're wearing, no matter who they love, and say, you know what? Because I am a servant of humanity, it is not my job to judge you individually. Now, if I see you causing a harm, you're the threat of causing harm to yourself or someone else, that's when I take action. Okay? And that's the only time I take action against you. Otherwise, I'm here to guide you, comfort you, and love you. Not to take advantage of you. Now, which brings me to mega churches. Now, understand something. I understand at this particular time, my words don't get the spins and plays of influencers and stuff like that, and I'm okay with it. Because between you, I, and the sky, all I gotta do is say it or write it, and it's so. Now, moving forward, if we understand that mega churches, just the concept and idea of them, is abhorrent in all the ways that something can be abhorrent. And that is a judgment. It is. But it's also a fact. And this has been pronounced, especially when there were hard freezes and flooding and things like that, and the church doors weren't opened. Because we got to keep everything clean, away from the homeless. What is the freaking point of a church if it isn't a sanctuary? Then what's the point of it? So y'all can all have the same ideas and agree with each other while also making the person on the stage wealthy beyond anything you could imagine. Every single one of these mega pastors, they ain't speaking for no God I understand. But they're speaking for a God, I suppose. But if we understand God as a collective of oneness, and they're the only one benefiting from it, well, what we benefiting when their words are inspirational? Maybe they ain't no different than the current influencers that is influencing the kids to eat Tide Pods. At least that's the way I see them, but that's a personal judgment. I do understand. I understand personal judgments, when I say them, they're subjective, they're not fact. It's just my little opinion. My opinion could be wrong. But I'm asking you to think outside of what you've been told so you can understand that it's time to change these things. Because if we don't change them, then they're just going to get worse. We already have hive-minded people doing hive-minded things all the time, and it's time for us to not think so hive-minded, but feel that we understand. Yes, we are all interconnected, and what impacts one eventually will trickle down and impact all. Okay? We can understand this and know this, but not from a space of taking advantage of each other or hurting each other, but we can know and understand this from a space of, hey, maybe I shouldn't do that because it's wrong or it's hurtful, but also it's going to eventually impact me too and those around me. Maybe I should think about this from a space of, maybe I shouldn't be an asshole right at this moment. Now, is everybody going to join that particular bandwagon? No. And besides, personally, I wouldn't recommend it because this place would be a lot boring. Just like it would be very boring if there was only just one religion and one belief structure and one culture. It would be boring and wouldn't have any challenges in it. Do I super enjoy and love all the challenges that's happened in my own personal life? No. But I will say, I'm not one of those people, and I'm about to close it out because I'm past almost 40 minutes at this particular point. Look, I ain't one of those people that's like, I am grateful for all the challenges. No, I'm grateful for some of the challenges that created the beast that is in me, that is a survivor, that will fight through anything. But I ain't grateful for all of it. I'm not grateful for being bullied. I'm not grateful for being abandoned. I am not grateful for people who are actual villains getting other people to think that they were the victims to also villainize me. I'm not grateful for any of that. That can just be shoved right up somebody's asshole. Okay? Because that still hurts. Sometimes. Not all the time. It used to hurt all the time. But now I'm pretty good with it. But I will say, we can in some way come to a space as a collective to understand that some things within our structure that are challenges is good in this particular school of human evolution. Because if we didn't have any challenges, we wouldn't be robust now, would we? I know that to be true. Anyway, y'all loved.